Disney. The name conjures images of fairy tales, colorful animation, and wholesome family fun. But in 1979, Disney did something very different. They released their first ever PG-rated film, a movie filled with brooding gothic sets, a killer robot who literally shreds people to pieces, and an entire crew turned into space zombies. And it also happened to be one of Disney's earliest ventures into computer-controlled camera effects and early CGI. This wasn't Cinderella, this wasn't even Star Wars, this was The Black Hole, Disney's strangest, darkest experiment. Flash forward about a decade later, it's 1990. I'm 8 years old, the Disney logo spins onto the screen, and I'm expecting something bright and safe. Maybe Mickey in a spacesuit, or maybe a friendly little space adventure? Instead, I get Dr. Hans Reinhardt, an intense, wild-eyed man commanding a ship full of space zombies. And then there is Maximilian, not the actor, the robot, a hulking red, blade-armed monster with glowing eyes. One look and you know this thing isn't here to hand out churros at Disneyland. I'll be honest, it terrified me, but it also mesmerized me. The Cygnus, Reinhardt's ship, with its cathedral-like corridors and endless glass walls, looked like something out of a gothic fever dream. And the final act, where the ship slowly tears itself apart, that stayed with me forever. I don't think this film was meant for an 8-year-old, but it sure shaped me. It left more of an imprint on my imagination than Star Wars, and I like Star Wars, but The Black Hole had atmosphere, it had horror, it had poetry, in a very weird, very Disney way.
What's going on?
That's what I'd like to know.
So where did this strange film come from? The project actually began in the early 70s under the working title Space Station 1. At first, it was pitched more like a disaster movie in space, something closer to the Poseidon adventure than metaphysical sci-fi. Over years of rewrites, it evolved into the movie we now know as The Black Hole. It was directed by Gary Nelson, produced by Ron W. Miller, and written primarily by Jeb Rosebrook and Gary Day. The score came from the legendary John Barry, who also composed for James Bond and Dances with the Wolves. Released in December 1979, it ran just under 100 minutes, with a budget of around $20 million. Disney even briefly brought in science fiction writer Harlan Ellison as a consultant, but true to Ellison fashion, he was dismissed before lunch on his very first day. The cast was impressive. Maximilian Schell as Reinhardt, an Oscar winner who was reportedly thrilled to work with Disney, partly because as a boy he would adore Snow White. Anthony Perkins, already immortalized for Psycho, playing Dr. Alex Durant. Robert Forster, Joseph Bottoms, Ernest Borgnine, and Yvette Mimol rounded out the Palomino crew. There is also a funny almost casting. Sigourney Weaver was considered for Dr. Kate McCree, but apparently her name was dismissed as too unusual. Who knows, maybe The Black Hole could have launched Weaver into sci-fi stardom even before Alien. But beneath the sets, the robots, and the spectacle, The Black Hole is actually about some heavy ideas.
Will travel where no man has dared to go.
Into the black hole?
In, through, and beyond.
At its heart, the black hole is a metaphor for the ultimate unknown. It's death, it's the void, it's what comes after we leave this life. And Dr. Reinhardt? He's the archetypal Faustian scientist, brilliant, ambitious, arrogant, so determined to conquer the unknowable that he sacrifices his crew, his morality, and even his own humanity. The film constantly balances science and spirituality. The ending doesn't provide us with an explanation, it just shows us visions of hell and heaven. It suggests that science can take us far, but it can't explain everything. Some mysteries lie beyond human understanding in the moral and metaphysical. Reinhardt's world is also about control. His crew are no longer people, they are drones stripped of will.
I've created companions of a sort.
It's a warning. Obsession and unchecked authority leads to dehumanization. And then there is the theme of man versus machine. Reinhardt surrounds himself with cold, menacing robots like Maximilian, While the heroes bond with Vincent and Bob, robots with warmth and personality, the message is clear. Technology itself isn't evil, it reflects the values of the person who wields it. Finally, the black hole itself is more than science. It's an allegory for judgment, purgatory, and rebirth. Reinhardt is literally fused with his creation, trapped in a metallic hell. The heroes, by contrast, pass through a cathedral of light. The black hole becomes not just an object in space, but a spiritual journey. Now, let's talk about the visuals. Disney went all in on this. The film used custom-made camera rigs, complex matte paintings, and pioneering motion control systems. Over 150 matte paintings were commissioned, though only 30 made into the final cut. But what's there is jaw-dropping. The Cygnus itself is one of the most beautiful spaceships ever put to film. Fragile, skeletal like a floating cathedral, adrift in darkness. The robots, also iconic. Maximilian is a nightmare fuel wrapped in shiny red armor. The humanoid drones, blank faces, silent obedience, they are pure gothic horror in space. The only weak spot? Poor Vincent and Bob. They look like they wandered in from a Saturday morning cartoon. Big goofy eyes, cutesy design. Turns out their original look was scrapped late in production, and there just wasn't enough time to refine them. As a kid, I loved them. As an adult, I get why some people laugh. They feel like toys in a movie full of nightmares. But just as important as the visuals was the music. The score for The Black Hole was composed by John Barry, best known for his work on James Bond. And while the film has its flaws, Barry's music is extraordinary. The main theme is unforgettable, a swirling, almost hypnotic waltz that captures the cosmic pull of the black hole itself. It's eerie, relentless, and strangely elegant. When I hear those wailing strings, I'm instantly transported back to the dark corridors of the Cygnus and the haunting finale. Barry also broke with Disney tradition. This was one of their first films with fully symphonic dark orchestra score rather than something lighter or more family-friendly. In fact, Disney showcased it with an overture. Audiences sat in theaters listening to Barry's music before the movie even began, like an old Hollywood epic. The soundtrack was also one of the earliest digital recordings released by Disney, which gave it a clarity and weight that matched the ambitious visuals. For me, the music is half the atmosphere of the black hole. It's what turns the film from a curious space adventure into a gothic meditation on the unknown. Even if the science is nonsense, Barry's score makes it feel profound. When The Black Hole premiered, critics didn't know what to make of it. Some praised the visuals, others mocked the story and the characters. And yes, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson later called it the least scientifically accurate movie of all time. But over the years, it's built a cult following. It's remembered as one of Disney's strangest experiments, a film that didn't fit the studio's usual mold. And there was even talk of a remake in the late 2000s, with director Joseph Kosinski attached. But by 2016 it was shelved. Apparently the script was considered too dark for Disney, which is ironic because darkness was always the point. So where does that leave The Black Hole today? It's not perfect. The story could have been tighter, the characters deeper. Some effects haven't aged well, but despite all that, it's unforgettable. It inspired films like Event Horizon, and it remains a rare artifact. A Disney movie that dared to stare into the abyss. A film that blended space opera with gothic horror, science with spirituality, robots with souls.
We are going through!
If you saw it as a child, chances are it's still burned into your memory. It's a forgotten classic, flawed, haunting, and strangely beautiful. And it deserves more recognition than it ever got. Because sometimes the strangest Disney experiments are the ones worth revisiting.